Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Collective Rising Conversations. Today, I come to you from winter in the prairies. It's currently about minus 20 degrees out. Sun is shining. I'm in my happy place, which is a forested area just down the hill from where I live. And I thought it would be good to record a intro for this episode in nature with my feet on the ground, in contact with the mycelial network, which is really an amazing thing that connects all life. And today's guest, Brett Ellis, is really has his finger on the pulse of that world, that fungi, mycelium world. And so Brett is the co-founder of Good Livin, where he and his partner take a unique approach to plant medicine, where they're integrating ancient wisdom with cutting-edge science. He has over 12 years of experience in medicinal mushrooms and natural product design. So he blends his expertise in biochemistry, power engineering, holistic wellness, and brings all that together to craft formulations that optimize bioavailability, absorption, and real-world efficacy. His journey, which he's going to share in this episode in a really profound and vulnerable way that I really respect. And this journey has led him to work closely with microdosing protocols, mushroom plant synergies, mindset optimization, and really just guiding individuals towards peak performance and deep self-connection. So having been at the forefront of a mushroom startup, Brett developed a sharp eye for market gaps and innovation, and really launching companies that push the boundaries of wellness, fitness, and tropics. He's driven by a passion for unlocking human potential and is really a fusion of scientific precision and intuitive understanding of the mind-body-spirit connection. Whether he's formulating new blends, refining protocols, or exploring the next evolution in plant-based medicine, his mission remains the same: to empower people through nature's most potent tools. And his brand, his company is Good Livin, Good Livin, and I highly recommend all of their products. I've tried a selection of them and have been very, very impressed with the products themselves, the intention that goes into growing these products, and just Brett. I just have a respect for him as a human, and he's just doing everything the right way, and I'm excited to bring you this conversation. So before we dive in, I just really like to ask you if you feel called to subscribe to this podcast, to rate the show, to leave a comment. It really goes a long way to getting this out to more and more people. And so I just have a lot of gratitude for everyone who's taken the time to listen to this. And I hope you get something practical that you can bring back to your life and raise your consciousness, and in so doing, raise the collective consciousness. Let's dig in to Collective Rising Conversations. Tonight we have Brett Ellis with us. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time and sharing your wisdom and your experience and your just amazing energy with the people. So I just want to basically just ask you kind of just some general questions and see where we go. So I've known you for about been a year, say something like that. And we were introduced through some mutual connections, and I've just been really excited about what you're doing and what you're bringing to the world and the medicine that you're bringing to the world. And again, just your energy. It's something that I very much enjoy, and also would love to see more of this in the world, more people like yourself doing the things that light them up and bring joy to themselves and therefore other people. So yeah, if you could just kind of start off telling the people that would be listening what you were up to and kind of how you got here.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that so much too. It's truly an honor. And I love what you're doing as well. And that's how we connected. I'm a big fan of this work you're doing with the clothing, and then what you're doing here with Collective Rising too. I think it's so cool. Yeah. And then me, so I have a company called Good Livin, where we work with mushrooms, and a focus is microdosing as well. For me, I've been focused on mushrooms for almost 20 years now. It seems crazy to think about, but I spent a lot of time in Calgary. I went to school out at Mount Royal for business for a little while, and then went into SAIT for power engineering. Through that time, I found whole whole nutrition, whole medicine. I was kind of getting back into fitness. I'd played hockey a lot growing up, and then took a break. And I was getting back into fitness, and I was trying all these different diets and stuff, and nothing was really resonating. Like I was kind of like veggie for a bit, tried the keto thing, and it was good, but it was like not really something that just fit with my lifestyle for a long period of time. And it kind of like, it doesn't have to be this hard. Like there's no way. It was always just like, wasn't resonating for some reason. So I was training for an ultra marathon at the time, and was looking for, yeah, just some supplement boost, but I was leaning into more natural stuff. I found whole nutrition, which led me into Ayurvedic medicine. I was doing some programs, some courses and stuff, learning more about it, diving into books and all sorts of things, and started integrating it into my life. And I was feeling these boosts, feeling way better. And I was like, oh wow, so this is like, I could eat what I want, but it's really about being conscious of the food that I'm eating and where it's coming from. And I was noticing a big difference. And that led me down this rabbit hole where I found a study on cordyceps mushrooms. And this was a study on the Chinese Olympic team back in the Sydney Olympics, so back in like 98. And they were winning all these gold medals. And no one could figure out why, because it was pretty unheard of for them to be beating all the Australians, beating the Americans, and all this stuff. They were testing for steroids. They kept failing. And it came out later that they were on a dense cordyceps sinensis routine. So cordyceps sinensis is this mushroom that grows high up in the Himalayas and really helps with your cardiovascular and helps almost in a sense create like a blood doping effect. And this just fascinated me. And I ended up getting my hands on some of these cordyceps, integrated it into my training routine, and I was knocking time off my trials. I was like, doing my 20K and I knocked off a couple minutes, and noticed in my 10K on those quicker sprints, I was knocking off quite a bit of time, like 5-10 minutes. I was like, oh, this is really something here. And I loved mushrooms all my life, just growing up just as a food. I never really thought much of it, but yeah, it just tweaked something. So that just took me down a rabbit hole of looking up different studies. And I found in Japan, this had been used for a century. Lion's mane, turkey tail, used for all these different arenas. And I found Paul Stamets and dove into all of his work. At that time, mushrooms weren't very prominent in North America. Like it was like maybe one or two companies where they were starting to get some stuff. And so I just continued to dive into it. And I ended up taking some different programs, read all Paul Stamets' work, and just kept diving into books. And then started to make my own recipes with maca and ashwagandha and some different herbs. And I noticed how these mushrooms really work together. And it wasn't until years later I got introduced to microdosing, and I had never really thought about psychedelics in that way. Like it was that one a couple times at music festivals or a party here and there growing up, but I was always pretty timid with it. Like, don't want to go trip out or anything like that. And I was at that time continuing my studies while I was doing my power engineering work. And I had been diagnosed with ADHD when I was in university, but because of finding the whole food nutrition, the pharmaceutical thing didn't really resonate with me. The first time I tried the ADHD medication, I felt very like zombified. I was focused, but I wasn't connected. I wasn't actually absorbing anything. I felt really robotic. It just didn't feel good in my body. So I was just always something that I struggled with, like read 5 pages, go 4 pages back, read 6 pages, 4 pages back. And it was just kind of that constant thing. And I had started this microdosing, and I completely forgot I'd actually taken the capsule in the morning. And I had gone through my day and like these studies, and I retained so much, and I was reflecting on my day, and I was like, whoa, I really crushed it today. And then I was like, oh yeah, I took that pill. And then I was like, looking in the mirror, and I'm like, wow, I was really like, there's something here. And what was cool, I was doing a 1 day on, 2 day off schedule from someone named James Fadiman, who's pretty prominent in the microdosing space. And on my 2 days off, this started to compile. And like, I could still compartmentalize things like never before. I could kind of, it was enough off where I could push it aside and I would just stay focused. And then it was building on itself. And I realized I was starting to train my brain, and it was something for me that was just, I mean, there's got to be a way to get this natural medicine to the people, because it really changed my life. And as that continued, it's really been a key ally in my health. And for me, I really believe that our bodies are these innate technologies, and it's just really about getting the system into balance so it can do its thing. And that's where microdosing can be so powerful. And it's led me to the work I do today, where I create different functional blends designed for certain ailments. So like for pain, for focus, for head relief, all sorts of things. And where I've continued my studies is then, how does it work in the body? How can we really dial in to support the system to allow it to do its thing, so we can get that boost, whether that's for healing or optimization. And yeah, it's been really cool. It's something I'm incredibly grateful to be doing. And we're continuing down the microdosing route, looking at how we can create legal avenues for this medicine and continue to get data to show that there's natural ways to work with these medicines. As I've continued this journey, I've gotten to study plants deeper, connect in a more spiritual light, and understand the relationship we have with these plants as well, which is extremely powerful, and something that I think as we allow ourselves, it really opens up and connects us to that power we all have in our bodies already. So what we try to do with Good Livin is try and take that mentality of connecting to the ancestral roots of where these plants come from, the heritage, the different areas of the world, as well as then bring it into a modern time and take that a bit of a lighter approach, because, that piece is, we're all going through stuff. And that is also the beauty of being human. That's that vastness that is humanity. And some of our greatest skills come from those depths. So being able to work with the plants and have the education, have the support systems to move through these things, to find the gifts and everything that's on the other side, is something we're really passionate about. So we've tried to create that with Good Livin, and it's been a pretty cool journey so far.
Amazing. Yeah, there's so much gold in what you've just said. So I personally have tried your products, the Good Living products, and am super impressed with them and the effects, and not just on the microdosing side either, but just with the functional mushroom. So I ordered the Entrepreneur Pack. So it has your Peace Blend, Lion's Mane, Focus, and then you get to choose your microdose as well. And so I've been kind of messing around with taking just the functional mushrooms for, a little bit more of a consistent kind of I don't know what you call it. But anyways, taking those for a few days, just them by themselves. And I've had kind of a similar thing happen to me where I kind of forgot what I was doing. And I'm like, man, I had a good day and I was feeling really good and got so much done, and then realized, I'm like, oh yeah, this is day 2 of taking actually all 4 of those functional mushrooms that come in that pack. And so yeah, I'm a believer. I love the nature aspect of this, and that it's not a pharmaceutical at all. It's just nature in a capsule form, blended by someone who's obviously passionate about it and has a ton of knowledge, that being yourself. And just the mushrooms themselves and just the way they grow, it's so fascinating, and their role in the ecosystem as the decomposers, and how that mycelium network is literally everywhere under our feet and connects everything. And so I love how much you know about mushrooms. And so I want to give you a chance here just to kind of I'd love to hear from your perspective, just talking about that mycelium network and that connectivity, and then also the mushroom's role in the natural ecosystem and how that affects us when we take these medicines.
Yeah. Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. And that's so awesome to hear. It's really neat when we start to tune it and how it responds for our bodies. And so much of, we come from nature, right? And that process is really quite interesting, how the cycles of nature and the mycelium, how it's all interconnected. And these mushrooms are so fascinating. We really believe, like the microdosing and those mushrooms have its role in what they can do in working with us. But same with the lion's mane, same with the functionals. They all have their unique ability, while yet having this beta glucan base, which is really this nutrient profile that is really great for our cellular health and really helps with so many different functionalities of the system. So that's why they can go so well with other plants. As they work in nature, the mycelium works intertwined with all of the forests, all of the different plants that work through it. And they're adaptogenic. So that means that they can work with other plants as well. So these mushrooms will have this beta glucan base, and then they'll have some different bioactive that's really prominent for certain health, whether that be for small organ health or our gut health or our brain health or whatever that may be. So it's really quite cool how they can work not only together, but with other plants as well. And what I try and do is really focus in like what part of the system are we trying to work with. We live in a time we have actually so much data, which is amazing, right? But there's some commonalities in what we're experiencing, and there's some commonalities in some of the areas too, right? From where our food's coming from. The soil isn't as mineral rich. So there's a lot of mineral deficiencies in society, which are playing a role in our stress levels, which are playing a role in our mental health issues, right? So if we can try and boost that where we're not maybe getting that from our food, then it allows the body to start doing its thing. And then we're not getting that same anxiety we might normally, or we're not getting that same stress response because we're getting enough nutrients to the adrenals. So yeah, it's really quite fascinating, and there's so many ways you can go with it. And the mushrooms themselves just have this interesting network where their immune systems are more like ours than any other thing out there, right? Which is really fascinating. So I'm incredibly grateful to be working with an awesome group of growers that have been doing this for a very long time and using an ancient grow tactic that they've developed and on a superfood fruiting bed that they've developed. But they're taking the mycelium as well as the fruiting body. And when that's extracted properly, then you're getting that whole immune system of the mushroom too, right? So you're getting, they call it full spectrum. So this is basically the full spectrum of the bioactive. So it's like different sizes of that. So the absorption rate in studies show to be more absorbent, but then you're also getting that immune system. So there's a lot we don't know there, but it's quite fascinating how they show up and the results that we're getting for people's gut health, for sickness, for like all sorts of that immunity side of things, because it seems to be quite prominent. And the way the human biome responds is quite fascinating, because we seem to be getting these really great boosts from the mushrooms themselves.
With the full spectrum, which mushrooms specifically are you able to do that with? Is it all of them or just certain varieties?
Yeah, basically all of them. And yeah, all the ones we're working with, the chog is a little bit different, but other than that, you're able to extract that mycelium with the fruiting body. So, and then the rest of that bed's taken out from what's left. But when they're grown really, really well, that mycelium eats up that whole fruiting body. So it's basically all mycelium, and any other is removed. And I'm a big, coming from the engineering side of things, I'm a big fan of the science. I'm a big fan of the data, knowing as much as I believe in the spiritual component, as much as I believe in our human ability and our mindset component, I also believe in the bioactive component, like it's to know that we're testing these for not only just any impurities and that kind of thing, but for the bioactives we're looking for in that mushroom. So we know that they're strong. We know that they're going to have a prominent effect. So how can we bring that all together to make just one really optimal experience?
That combination of both the science and like maximizing the potential of these amazing things that are here for our benefit. I mean, the mushrooms, and also the spiritual side of it and the energetic component as well, and how important that is, and how, in my own experience, how crucial that was to my own healing with psilocybin specifically. So for those that haven't heard my whole story, I was able to heal I was diagnosed severe PTSD and doing all the traditional therapies, and there was no energetic component to those traditional, and they're not really traditional, they're contemporary therapies, I guess.
It's a good word.
And I just really needed something that was actually dealing with that energetic component. And when I went into my healing journey with psilocybin and with a shaman, that energetic component was like front and center. And I truly believe that that was why I had such a profound healing experience and was able to go from that diagnosis to no longer meeting the criteria for a diagnosis after literally just that one session with
Amazing.
a strong intention, of course. I went in there wanting to go in and process whatever it was I needed to process. And then also when I was growing, so I grew my own psilocybin from a kit that I had ordered online. And so as I was growing this medicine, I grew them on a sacred geometry clearing plate, and then I was doing Reiki on them as they were growing. And so I firmly believe that intention that I put into them, and then the intention I went into the ceremony with, was why I had such a unusually powerful healing experience.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your perspective on that energetic component and what you think of that.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, man. And thank you for bringing that up. I think honestly, it's the more I learn, something that's been fascinating to me recently and that I'm diving into more and more is ancient alchemic studies. And they talk about in these ancient texts, like before most Catholic religion and stuff back in the times of Yeshua, and they discuss in some of these texts how important the energy was to the alchemists when they were creating their piece, like the energy around them, the environment, the energy that they hold. In alchemic teachings, they talk about the personal practice being just as important as the practice of making the medicine, because the energy you hold when making that is part of that process. So it's a key component. So that piece is profoundly important. And that's resonating with me deeply, because I think as we're ascending into this time where we're starting to tune into that, we're seeing that we're these amazing energetic beings that have, the capacity we have the capacity more than any power plant on earth, right? But like, we just haven't been able to tap into it. And it plays such a key role, from the growers that I've talked to in the way the mushrooms respond while growing. It's something for us that we take very seriously in when we're blending the plants together to when we're capsulating through that whole process. And it's something we like to speak to when we're doing our mushroom talks, to when we're talking to people in general, and just how much of a opportunity we have to connect with our supplements when we're working with the mushrooms with that intention, like you did so amazingly there. And like, we have that ability to connect with that energetic as we're taking these plants and natural supplements and stuff too, right? Like, we've seen it in, I'm going to probably screw this name up, but Motoyaki, or what his Yakimoto is it, with the water, and when he's giving it gratitude and love, and then it freezes and it has all these crazy geometric designs to when they're playing, like, kind of like hateful things, or someone was saying lower vibrational stuff to the water, it was all shattered. And like, we've seen it in these areas, but I don't know if we always realize how much we have control of that in just every moment of our day, right? Like, from the water we're drinking, from the plants that we're taking. And I'd be super curious, man, like, in your experience, did you feel going into that experience, did you feel held? Did you feel a connection to those mushrooms as you were taking them going into your experience? Was there anything from maybe future experiences that you can relate back where there's a difference in that connection from growing them from that state to the place of taking them for your journey?
Yeah, I definitely had a personal connection to the mushrooms that I ended up taking, of course, on during my healing journey. And I think it's so important to have, well, number one, an intention, because if you go into really anything, your day, a healing journey, any situation without an intention in mind, you're not giving a direction. So it could go, any number of ways. And I just have found in my own experience, and the experience I just told you about, being like the biggest turning point for me, just to realize how key that intention piece is. And as I'm saying that, I just realized that I love to start these podcasts with setting an intention, and I didn't do that. So I'm going to do that right now. So I'm just going to quickly just state my intention for this podcast, and then we'll get back into it. And then I'll give you an opportunity just to give a quick intention. So my intention for tonight, for today's session, is to have conversation, to dig into areas that light both of us up, and to share knowledge and to gain knowledge from you, and to have this be a platform where people can listen in on this conversation and gain some knowledge, some wisdom, some practical steps that they can take in their own life. So that's my intention for tonight.
I love that intention. I love that intention. Yeah, my intention in alignment with yours is to connect with the collective rising plan here and help activate each other, help boost each other. And we all have so much wisdom to bring and learn from each other, and to spark that within each.
Better late than never, right?
Perfect. Always happens when it's supposed to.
Yeah, exactly. So back to that energetic connection I had to the medicine that I brew. It was palpable even going into that ceremony. Like, I had this just respect, I want to say, and just an honoring for the medicine and the potential of what it could do for me. And so as I went into the session, I had written out my intention in my journal. And so with that medicine held to my heart, I read my intention 3 times forcefully, and then I consumed it, and it did exactly what I asked it to do, kind of like magic. And it's like, you can't make this stuff up. Like, it doesn't make logical sense, but it literally, so my intention was to go in and go back to those hard situations, those hard calls that I'd been to, having been in law enforcement for, it was about 15 years at that point. So to go back to those hard places that I had never let myself even think about again, and do the work that I needed to do to process it. And so they offered me a gateway to that place. So with that altered state of consciousness, I was able to, without any resistance, without even thinking about it, I just went back to that first hard call in my early days in my policing career, and for the first time allowed myself to not relive it, but just feel some things, and was able to see the situation from a different perspective, and realize that holding on to this thing, 15 plus years later, was certainly not helping the people involved in the situation. So for me, a lot of them were actually suicide related. And so certainly not helping the people, not helping me holding on to that. And then I just had this, what I can only describe as Jesus level, Yeshua level compassion for the people, and what their story must have been, and what their traumas must have been in order to get them to that place where I was called there on that day. And then that same level of compassion for myself, in that I joined policing to help people, as that was definitely lost along the way, and kind of a naive way to get into policing, but that was my truth. And so a combination of those things just allowed it to finally process and move. And it just, once I went in there and let myself go back and feel those things and then move them, the situations no longer held any sort of an emotional charge, because I wasn't having to push them back down anymore. They're just a memory. There's no life force energy being needed to push these things back down anymore. And so it's just been, incredibly liberating. And I'm sold that they need to be available for the people that are called, not for everyone, of course, but for those that are called to do the work and to utilize psychedelics to do that work. These medicines have incredible power and incredible potential to help so many people. And so it's just part of my mission to share my own story because of how profound it was for me, and just to let people know that there's options out there. There's other things we can do that don't involve a pharmaceutical and don't involve, modern psychiatric therapies. And yeah, that's my story. And I'm just super just excited about the future, and just grateful to be able to share my story and to have experienced what I experienced myself in order to be able to help people. I truly feel like I needed to see and experience all of the dark things that I did in order to be able to help people on their own journey of healing and transformation. And so, yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of a long answer there.
No, man, that's perfect. Thank you for sharing that. I think is such a powerful story, right? Because I think it's such a difficult job, policing, and I truly believe it. Everyone, there's so many people who get into this work to help people for that. Like we all have that light, that desire, and that's just so cool. But there's these things that happen, and there's the shadow of the experience. It's amazing and where working with the plants can be so powerful is when we have, the nervous system, and it's set up as a protection mechanism. You have these experiences, and it's like, we don't want to remember that. We don't want to. So it puts it that block up. But sometimes it's really hard to access and to move through it when we're at a place where it's time to move through it. When we get to that new perspective, we realize, what that experience came in for. Why maybe our higher self called that experience in, because of the lessons and the vast perspective we can gain from that. Because when you see that, I don't know, to me anyways, when you get to that place in that experience, and you get to see where it came from, you realize how human we are. And even if someone's maybe done an act on us that is just, we didn't deserve, we didn't do those things, but ultimately for them, it came from a place of something, that traumatic event that happened for them, and it stemmed from something, and it's when we can see that, it really is amazing how it shifts, and then I really believe as we get to that, we get this whole new power source in our body, this whole new awareness, connection to ourselves, this whole new strength. For me, I've never really shared this story, but when I was in university, quite young, at like 21, I was out with some friends in Edmonton, and we were out having a good time, and we were on White Ave, and it was kind of like the end of the night, and everyone's out on the streets and stuff. And I was with two friends, and they had gone down the road, and I was talking to some people, and then I saw they were talking to a group of guys, and I tapped the fellow on the shoulder they were talking to. I was like, "Hey, did you see where those guys you were chatting with went?" And he's like, "Don't fucking touch me," and like really kind of just exploded. I'm like, "All right, man, no worries." Head down the street and get hit in the back of the head, and then two boots just kicked and kicked, and till I was completely out. I woke up in the hospital, was told I almost died, broken orbital bone. My eye was completely gone and had to have emergency eye surgery. Was on bed rest for a month. The cops ended up catching them, so they went to prison for a short time, and we had the whole court situation and everything. And for me, for the first time, I had all this anger I never knew what to do with, like I was always a very happy-go-lucky guy, and for the first time, I was just like having these just these nightmares and these visions of like, getting even and doing these things, and I just didn't know where to put it. And it's actually how I found Buddhism. And I read this book about, it was just a very Americanized, simple Buddhist book, but this fella had talked about a parking lot. The guy cuts you off in the parking lot, and our first reaction is to be like, "Hey, fuck you." But you don't know what that person went through that day. That person may have got dumped by their wife. That person may have lost a child. That person may have had something traumatic happen to them where they were just not all there, and they just didn't see it. And that for me just really resonated, and started me off diving into Buddhism. And I really resonated with that outlook on the world, of seeing that other side of it, because it brings a lot of perspective of what's happening when someone's being aggressive to us, when someone's being rude to us, it's not to say to not protect ourselves and honor ourselves, but to also understand where the triggers within ourselves are coming from, because that's ours. And then understand what's going on and being able to play with that and then work with that in our own lives. It becomes a practice all the time. And that really started to shift the perception for me, where it just changed my life. And it's honestly something to this day that it took me many years to get to a point of forgiveness with those guys. And to this day, I'm really grateful for the experience, and that it taught me so much and it gave me so much. But it was quite traumatic, and it came with a lot of shadow to work through. But without that shadow, I couldn't get the growth in there. So it was, it's one of those ones where it kind of starts to shift the perception and change the paradigm around these things, not to look for it, but when we are faced with it, you know?
Yeah. What a beautiful perspective. Thank you for sharing that story. And it's just so awesome to see someone have that, just like not being in that victim mentality and seeing the lessons and the things that it showed you and the way that it took you on a different path. And even though it was painful and all the things, that you see the medicine in it now. And so it's beautiful. And then with in our daily lives, when that person cuts you off or whatever, it's so true, because you never know what that person's dealing with. And so I try in those moments, sometimes more successfully than others, but it like, just take a deep breath and bless them and hope and send them positive energy that they will get to where they're going safely. And it
Love
just
it.
like takes that anger, takes that edge off, and it just transmutes it into something beneficial and selfishly, it's actually benefiting me more than it is benefiting the person, right? Like me sitting in my car getting all like, that's not, I'm basically hurting myself more than anyone, of course. So it's just such a great perspective. I just actually wanted to share a story about forgiveness, and along these same lines, and this ties back to my own healing journey as well. So one of the hard ones that I never let myself think about again was it was a murder that I was a small part of the investigation with. And it was in Calgary in about, I think it was around 2017. And it was a guy had business dealings that had went bad with this man. And so he decided he was going to go and end this guy's life. And so he broke into, they were actually a little bit older people. The suspect, or the bad guy, was probably in his maybe even late 50s, early 60s. And I think the victims were around that same age. And so they lived in Calgary, and they had an estate sale earlier that day. And then we're moving to, I think they were actually moving to Mexico. Anyways, so it was husband and wife, and they just happened to have their grandkid with them staying in the house. And so his name was Douglas Garland, broke into their house and murdered all three of them. So the man, his wife, and their 5-year-old, I believe he was 5-year-old grandson. And so I was, again, a small part of that investigation. So I spent quite a bit of time in the house, the scene where it happened, and little boy's shoes still sitting by the back door. And it was just, I mean, it's tragic. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing that happened. So during my healing journey, I was able to have radical compassion for Douglas Garland and what traumas that he must have endured, faced in his life to get him to that point, to not only go in to kill the guy who'd wronged him or that he believed had wronged him, but then to take it to that next level and to kill not only an innocent woman, but an innocent little child. And so for me, it just highlights the power of the medicine, number one, to allow me to have that perspective and just moving forward in my life to be able to like forgive him in a way. I know that sounds weird maybe, but like I understand why he may have felt like he needed to do that and not to excuse it. Of course not, like terrible, terrible thing that he did, but to have that just compassion for another human, it was again selfishly like a really healing thing for me to, they always say, right? Forgiveness is the gift you give yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not easy, but when we can come to that point, it only benefits us moving forward in our lives when we can not hold on to this stuff and process it in a healthy way and then have it. I mean, it's always going to be a memory, of course, but to get rid of that emotional charge that I talked about and have it not affect you in your day-to-day life anymore. It's just a profound thing. And these plants, this medicine is so powerful. And I think that the intention that you put into them and the way that you specifically grow your medicine and the way you treat your medicine and the way you even package it in compostable packaging and like whole thing, it's really cool. And I want to say one more thing. My wife for years has always said, and jokingly up until more recently, but she would always say like, whenever she would make something that was really good, which is all the time, she would always be like, oh yeah, put a lot of love into that. And I kind of just laughed for years, not really thinking about it, but that's 100% why it tastes so good. Because when you're making something with love and intention and care, there's something energetically that changes. And you touched on it with it's not cymatics, but I know what you mean, where they speak ill towards water and then freeze it and the crystals are, kind of distorted and not geometric. And then they'll speak love into water and freeze it. And it'll be these beautiful crystals, super amazing, just nature. It's fascinating.
And it's so
And
cool, right?
that's getting into your food. That's getting into the medicine that you're making. So it's a real thing.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you for sharing that story too. That's super powerful. And, in the 3D, sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like we're talking about the water. When you carry that energy, we're 70% water. That fractalization is happening within us. That's just perpetuating that. And without getting to that compassionate place, getting to the place of forgiveness, however that looks for whoever, it's really, really profound. So thank you. I appreciate you sharing. It's really powerful. And yeah, man, like that piece with water is like just like that, right? You think about, so that goes into think about our self-talk. We have this ability to catch these things because there are these programs from our environment that we've like, I'm dumb, or these types, just like little ones that we can catch. And as we catch those, we're creating neuroplasticity, whether we're working with the plants and the mushrooms or not. Like we have the ability to always be upgrading the programming, tuning into like what's going around in our surroundings. Is there something that we get like you get that anger when the guy at the coffee shop spells your name wrong on your cup or whatever, right? Like they're like, so what is that stemming to? Because that, if we shift that, we see what that is. Like you mentioned in the car and stuff, it starts to get really powerful, and we have that power all the time to really be in the driver's seat and like start to change that, just evolve it, not put too much pressure on ourselves, and like have fun with it. Right? It's a journey, it's a ride, and can we enjoy it? Can we get curious? Can we understand where these emotions are coming up for us? They really are the conduit to our subconscious, right? Like, and it's a conduit to our programming, to our neuroplasticity, to really what we want to create. So it all stems together, and with what we were talking about before, there's all these cycles going on. Our bodies go through cycles, our cells go through cycles, nature goes through cycles, and I think we've unintentionally gotten so disconnected from nature, which we are, that we go outward in rather than inward out, right? Like these plants, these medicines, anything that we're using is like, it's a supplement. It's the power's all here. We're using to work with it, right? As we work inward out, it starts to change. It really starts to shift, and it really can be that place of empowerment, working with that, where we don't need necessarily anything, but we're working with this to help boost us. We're working with this because it's going to help in this healing time. And it really changes the paradigm and how we approach it. And it starts to also change the way our body responds. There's a really neat study that Bruce Lipton shares in one of his books about children who were told when they were sick, they had to go to the doctor to feel better. So every time they measured their immune system before and after, and their immune systems wouldn't actually kick on until after they saw the doctor, because of the subconscious belief that was implanted that they needed to see the doctor first before they could start getting well. So it's like an example of just how powerful our bodies are when we're communicating to them, right? So it's like, call it placebo, call it whatever you want. I'm a big believer in the placebo actually being something I'm starting to direct more and more of my studies around, is of the placebo showing us that true power that we have, the true power of our consciousness, the true power of that mind-body connection, because it's really profound what the effects are when we're tuning into them, and then ones that we've come up with. So it's like, yeah, sorry, a bit of a ramble there, but
so much gold in there. Two questions. What's the water percentage of mushrooms? I'm just out of curiosity compared to the human body.
Oh, dude, that's a great question. I'm not sure I know that one.
It'd be high though, wouldn't it? Like,
I think it would be high. I'd say my guess would be around a similar one, but that's a very curious question. That's really interesting. I never thought about that.
Okay.
That's it.
Super. Yeah. And just like,
that's amazing.
Going back to like, water is magic. Like, water has memory and which has been proven by those things that we've talked about with when they freeze it, how it like structurally aligns itself. It's fascinating. And we're a huge amount of that, and so are mushrooms. The connection I was making there.
And as a quick one, when talking about intention and starting our day, there's really nothing better than to start your day with like a glass of water, tuning into that intention, what kind of day you want to have, what you want to achieve, what you want to do. If you really want to take it up a notch, I love doing like squeeze a lemon and some pink Himalayan salts or sea salts, just shaking up, really charges the system. But like that water in the morning before we do our coffee and stuff is just like such a huge health one that a lot of people don't necessarily think about. But everyone that I've worked with that integrates that, it's like a profound shift.
Yeah, water ceremony. So that actually leads into my next question, and that's what are you doing kind of on a regular basis to maximize your energy and how you're showing up in the world?
Yeah. So for me, my morning routine, my evening routine and my afternoon routine are super, I just block them into my calendar, and I get up early. I do my morning meditation, and then I've started to play around with it a little bit more to try and see if I can really dial in flow states. But then I'll do a sauna and just like a quick cold dip. And for me, it just gives me that time in the morning to charge, to get aligned, to do my thing. And then I'll do a quick 15-minute meditation in the afternoon, just getting into meditative practice for 10 minutes and spend 5 minutes just visualizing like what I'm doing, where I'm going. And I find that to be really powerful and just a great way to like tune the system into that homeostasis, that coherent state. I feel that charge afterwards. And then in the evening, I try and just take an hour and I do a little red light therapy and read or something and try and turn the phone off. That one can get tricky sometimes, but I find that one to be, and I've gotten in. I'm a big fan of our sleep blend. I've started to dive into through making that blend. I've got really fascinated with. I'm a big fan of Carl Jung, and then some of his dream work and dream study, and starting to incorporate that type of work I've found to be quite fun too. So I've started to play around a little bit with that. But for me, the key is that morning and afternoon routine is definitely key for me to just feel charged and fly through the day.
For sure. Sets the day up it sets you up for success and gives you that, again, that intention piece of like moving in a direction that is what you actually want rather than just going wherever you end up going, for sure.
Definitely.
For
How about
me,
you?
so my morning routine right now is I set my alarm, and I have 3 little boys, so I gotta set it to get up before them to get it in. So I actually sit with my water and I hold it in my hands, and I do a breath work kind of protocol. So I do 10 deep in and out breaths. So all in and out through my mouth, like really deep diaphragmatic breath, like that. So I'll do 10 breaths, and then then exhale all my air and then hold my breath as long as I can. And then without going crazy, but like till I'm like, okay, I should probably breathe again. And then I do 20, and then same thing, and then 30, and then a longer breath hold. And then after, when I take my first breath, I ask myself, what does my intuition want me to know? And I just tune in, because I just do 60 breaths, I guess. You're like really in your body, or I'm really in my body, which is where you want to be. And then just tune in to whatever's coming in in that moment with intuitive guidance. And then I've been holding that water as well. And then so I'll drink that, of course. And then I've been messing around with incorporating some tapping as well. In that EFT tapping, so that emotional freedom technique tapping. So I'll do, after I've done my my little breath session there, I'll do some tapping too, and I'll like give myself forgiveness, and I'll start on the crown and be like, even though I sometimes don't show up as the best version of myself, I give myself grace. And as I'm going through the different tapping points, and then go through a couple times, and then bring in some positive things like, I know that I'm the creator of my reality. I know this. And then just really bringing it in that state where I'm really connected and really in my body.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's been my morning routine lately. And I definitely feel it when I don't get it in. And it's something that, yeah, it's so easy for us to give ourselves an excuse or let ourselves off the hook. And it's also so important to stay in integrity with yourself. And when you say you're going to do something, whether it's getting up early and doing whatever it is, and then you do that, it starts to build this positive loop, and you start to come into integrity with yourself. And it's a really positive thing. And on the opposite side, it can be, disrupting when you're not in integrity with yourself. And so it's just something that I just feel is so important, because if we told someone else that we were going to get up at 6 and do whatever it is, and they were counting on us, we would show up and do it.
Yeah.
But it's ourselves. We have a tendency to let ourselves off the hook. So yeah, that's definitely where I'm at right now with it. And it's been really good.
I love that. I mean, I was actually thinking about that today, about starting to integrate in some breath. It's been a minute, so maybe I'll give that one a go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, your breath is the way that you can tell your body at like a deep inner knowing that you're safe, because we can't, unless you're like really legit, you can't change your heart rate with your intention. Some people can, but I'm not there yet. With your breath, you start taking some deep breaths, and specifically if you're taking longer exhales than inhales, your body knows you're safe. And so you're able to influence your central nervous system. And I feel like if you can regulate your central nervous system real time when life is happening, you got it. You got it figured.
That's
You're
it.
able to stay in a positive way and create your reality from that positive state. And the breath is phenomenal. Sorry, I keep talking here, but
No, go for it. I love it.
I just driving home from work here tonight and had a stressful day, whatever, and just feeling a ton of tension in my neck and my traps and just like jaw even. And so just while I was driving, I just started doing in for 4, hold for 2, out for 6, and all in and out through my nose. Within about I would say about 5 rounds of that tension was completely gone out of my
Wow.
neck and trap area. And so, yeah, it's super powerful for sure. And I think we forget how powerful it is sometimes. The breath, I mean.
Man, and it's the biggest one, right? Like stress in our society is that it links to anxiety, it links to gut health, it's a big, they are all intertwined, but like having the ability to start to learn to tune into that nervous system is, like you say, it's unstoppable. You start to build that connection. It's just that mind muscle is just like any other muscle. We don't, I don't know if we always think about like, we gotta work. We gotta work it. We gotta explore it. It starts somewhere, and like as we get to work it more and more, we get more tapped into it, and it's just giving it a go and getting to know ourselves and just being in it. Then you start to really feel that like that ability you have, and then even when you have those things, to have those tools to work with, it's just so powerful.
So what advice would you have for someone that's, heard about microdosing, heard about all of these things and are looking to jump in? What advice would you give them? Where should they start?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So start with tuning in on why are you feeling called to this? Are you looking for something that's going to help with anxiety, maybe depression, or is it for an optimization tool? But really tune into what piece that you're wanting to work with and tune into that part of aligning with the mushrooms to not just be the magic pill, but to be your ally, to work with you so that pulls the emotion off so you can start to work with it, so you can tap into your breath, so you can utilize these emotions to take those steps in getting and learning what that anxiety, what that emotion, whatever's drawing you there is communicating to you. Because ultimately those emotions, these are all communications from our body to ourselves. So can we start to change that perception and do a little bit of just inward reflection in why are we feeling called to this medicine, and then a little bit of research, how to do it, how we want to go about it, reach out to people. It's a very beautiful community, a lot of beautiful support. Look at where you feel called, who you resonate with, and reach out and ask some questions, and then see how you can bring it in. Really important to learn how to incorporate it into your day. So you're incorporating it to get the best ability to tackle it and incorporate it with tools if you can, because the tools just start to make it even more effective and honestly profound.
Yeah, love it. Love it. So if someone's feeling aligned with you, how would they get a hold of you or get in contact with you and your amazing brand?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I probably could have dropped that. Hey. Yeah, no, thank you. So if you go to www.itsgoodlivin.com, that's our website. You can find us all there. We do quick 15-minute product recommendations for people who are very new and looking for that guidance. I also do custom protocol setup, our long calls, and we break down what your resistance points are, what you're trying to achieve in your life, where's the health stuff coming up, how can we support the body while supporting the mindset, supporting these tools to give that overall protocol, so that routine and that whole structure that's attainable, that's not going to be overwhelming, all that good stuff. So you can go about that way. And then you can also at It's Good Livin is our Instagram, and we're super active there. So you can reach us there too.
Amazing. And if you use the coupon code Nick10 at It's Good Livin, you can save 10% as well.
That's right.
Just saying. Yeah.
That's right.
Amazing. Well, thank you again for being you, for taking the time to have this conversation and to share your energy and your wisdom with the interweb. So I appreciate you. I'm grateful for you. And I'm excited to see what medicine you guys cook up, because everything that I've seen from you has been amazing. And I know that you guys are coming up with new stuff all the time. And I'm just excited to know you and to see what you're going to bring into the world as time goes on.
Thank you, man. Truly an honor. And I just love your energy too, and your just tenacity to create this container to, reach out and help people, and the stories and the best wisdom that you bring from that is I truly appreciate. And also a big fan of your flow state designs. I'm always rocking the swag. It's great where the energetics run through everything. And big fan of what you're doing, man. It's seriously an honor to be here.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.